r/Askreddit Autistic People of Reddit. What is autism really like? I was diagnosed with Asperger's at the age of 11. I feel like I'm part of a play where everyone has the script except me. I'm with you, Bacon. I too was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, well, at age 10. I know exactly where you're coming from. What I've sorta picked up on is that you have to have your own script to conquer social encounters. Like somebody asks what's up and I say, man, I'm rockin' and rollin'. Get brave. Accept the fact that you'll up. It's okay to get teased a little, as long as you draw a line somewhere. I didn't accomplish my social awkwardness till late in high school, but it doesn't end. Thing is, you end up being so proud of yourself that you forget your problem being a problem. Whenever PPL ask me how I still want to say somewhere in the middle between great and terrible. They want you to say great. Come to Europe, where I had better days is an acceptable answer. Oh, you know that time you said something stupid and everyone looked at you like you grew a second head? Imagine feeling like that every time you talk to someone. I am a high functioning autist, Emma. A friend of mine explained it to me like, imagine you're meeting someone new and right out of the gate they dump I got molested as a child, so that's kind of like a duck in cold weather. You'd have a fearful mix of holy shit, WTF do I say now? But also wait, what do they actually mean by that? And you get that feeling for almost every conversation with everyone forever. I'm not jealous. And you get that feeling for almost every conversation with everyone forever. Thankfully it does get easier by sheer rote learning. Luckily it's possible to blag past a lot of this by memorizing how common situations work, even if one doesn't know why. As an autistic person, what's being not autistic like? The therapist who diagnosed me once told me this story about how one of her patients basically thought, why is everyone so weird? For about 17 years before he got diagnosed, because he genuinely didn't realize that he might be the odd one. That's me as well. I should probably see a therapist then. I recognize myself in more than a few of the answers given in this thread. This one in particular triggered a few slightly uncomfortable emotions. Just remember that no matter what the doctor tells you, you're the same person you've always been. You just may have a name to some of your behaviors. While I live a pretty normal life, I have a lot of issues with sensory sensitivity, like loud noises, bright lights, certain food tastes, smells and standing in crowds of people. These things make me feel a bit stressed out, resulting in various issues like headaches and digestive problems. While we are on the subject, certain non-autistic people have the misconception that those of us on the spectrum would lack empathy. That is simply not true. We often have a hard time to read people, but we certainly do not lack human empathy. That needed to be said. I actually think that we have too much empathy. I oftentimes get visibly upset when I feel I hurt someone. I have huge trouble telling someone they've made a mistake. I've let people go calling me by the wrong name, or I change the subject in conversation, because the idea of making someone feel bad for making an error is intolerable. That one's a bugger to get around. It was worse as a teenager. I was once frozen to the spot for 3 minutes outside a teacher's door because knocking would interrupt them. Never mind that I had to see them and that they were expecting it. It might slightly inconvenience them and it would be my fault. I'm glad that stage is mostly over with. My go-to analogy is to imagine being in a country where nobody speaks English and you don't speak their language. You don't have a Fraser book, but you do have a translation dictionary. So you are speaking the words, but the syntax is way off, not to mention accent and pronunciation. You might think you're making sense and communicating well, but really people will be confused by you. Edit. So, this got me a lot of attention. Thank you for all the feedback, and I'm happy to see that some people found my comment helpful. To clarify, I'm talking from experience as someone with Asperger's syndrome. Those elsewhere on the spectrum will, of course, have different feelings. Edit 2, the sequel. Wow, my first gold. Thank you. Edit 3D. In 20 minutes 3 people have asked this same thing, so I'll explain. Yes, I may come across fine in writing, but I can take my time here. There is no pressure on me to respond quickly or at all, and I don't have you staring at me. I also know when to stop typing. I met a Chinese guy in the Philippines who only speaks Chinese. He used Google Translate to talk to other people. He was confused all the time and everyone liked him. It was actually really awesome cause a conversation could be saying his name kinda loud then smile at him, and he would be excited. The outcome of trying to communicate with him was always insanely positive cause nothing could be negative, and we would often just laugh. I want to be able to do some of that with other people, but I guess this is different, because people expect you to speak their language. It's hard, not only socially but also in school. I can't understand what the questions are asking me, because I always interpret it in another way. Especially the questions like why did the author write this, how does the author feel, etc. I would always question if I was reading this answer correctly, and my teachers would get frustrated with me due to the excessive amount of questions I asked. Socially I've managed to cope with my autism. I was quiet in middle school and a little bit of high school. I figured out I'm best at making myself look ridiculous in front of people. I now just laugh at myself, and I seem to fit in. However, most of the time I don't really catch on to my friends' jokes or opinions. Edit. Yes, this is a throwaway. I don't like talking about it on the internet, because people like Google searching usernames nowadays and use any information they find against you. Last thing I need is to be bullied for being autistic on the internet. It's already enough to deal with in real life. People who bully someone for being autistic, or for anything they have no control over, are not only jerks, but also very stupid. Keep up the fight. Unusual sub. You have just made me a really happy lady. I just created an account to respond to you. I read threads and have never felt the need to respond. I'm a 25-year-old nanny to an autistic 5-year-old. I can read him faster than anyone else can. I've learned to adapt to his needs, and with therapy and a specialist and lots of coaching, he is a very verbal child now. The stares and rude comments from strangers are very upsetting, but thankfully he is oblivious to them for now. He loves routine, and used to be very obsessive about every little thing in his daily life. He has really come out of his shell in the last 2 years, but he is very selective of who can be around him. It is so nice and refreshing to see such a nice person on the internet and know that my cute little 5-year-old has the chance to one day be comfortable to talk to strangers. Thank you so much for giving me a little hope on a rough day. All the best to you. I wish you many smiles and happy thinking. I'm glad I could make you smile. It is hard sometimes, and it is scary, but there are ways to make life better. Never just go they have autism they can't do, because sometimes they can, and other times they may not be able to say, put their socks on, but they can get the socks, and ask for help to put them on. It's not the same, but it's better than just assuming they have no understanding of the socks. Thank you kindly for your response. I made a Reddit account just for this. Autism for me is like being dismissed, being praised for still existing, being confused, sometimes not being able to speak, sometimes not understanding others when they speak for like 5 minutes after they speak, doing stuff in different positions from others, awkward gait, did I mention the confusion, lots of comorbid mental illnesses, nobody being interested in anything I like most of the time, fine motor control issues, chronic pain, probably fibro, this is almost always a thing. Underestimating my intelligence, overestimating my intelligence, underestimating and overestimating how much my autism disables me, not understanding why one can't correct me when one says I have autism and I say I'm autistic. Being trans is even more weird. Yeah, I'm autistic and S***K at math. It's called dyscalculia and is a common learning disability that can co-occur with autism. Yeah, I know, that PhD psychologist who diagnosed me? Totally full of shit. I really need a better evaluation. Thanks for that. Most importantly, the best part of being autistic is that everyone but you knows best. Why bother trying to have any kind of agency when everyone is clearly trying to make decisions for you? At the age of 4 I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. At 6 it was re-diagnosed with a form of autism new at that time. Asperger's, ASD now. I spend most days of school attending very short therapy sessions that were to help with my social issues. The problem is that it just puts on a mask for you. You're never very comfortable, and you couldn't care less about other people anyhow. The worst part is the apathy I dealt with until high school. It's surprising that I was even able to keep friends. Weirdly enough, my apathy gradually disappeared in my teen years, and I was able to socialize with other people. Most people can't even tell I have a disorder anymore. Nowadays I'm a very active member of 2 vocal performance groups at my college. This actually cured some of social awkwardness, and have a small group of friends that I communicate with frequently. My advice: get therapy. If it doesn't make sense at first, just keep doing it. I would not be able to handle social situations now without it. My friends mean a lot to me, and honestly I don't think I'd have them if I didn't do it. Another thing is, yes, I had hardcore hearing sensory issues that caused me to freak out, but I'm quite cured of that. Autism is, by definition, on a spectrum. I have an ASD, and it comes in peaks and troughs. Or at least, I think it does. Most of the time it's fine, but every now and then, the worst of it perfectly aligns with when I need it most, and it takes from me the things I most value in myself. That is, when I need to make a witty comeback, or learn to do something in a hurry, or complete a project quickly, or catch a fragile, expensive something I've knocked off a table. Things I can do fairly well most of the time. My happiest day thus far is realizing that my daughter hasn't inherited it, that I can see. She's clever and coordinated. I don't have it as bad as many people. My friend takes 15 minutes to get dressed. She has that little control over her limbs, so I shouldn't bitch about it. But every now and then it frustrates the F***k out of me. It depends in what context, mate. It's also different for everyone. But if you just mean taking a snapshot of what it's like to stand in the middle of a shopping mall, I can sort of describe how it may differ from the average person's experience. It's sort of like all of my senses such as sight are too loud. Sound is obviously too loud, but too much happening in my vision at once can also be described too loud as opposed to too bright. I also don't hear background noise or see a scene. I hear each noise I hear individually, and at the same time. I see everything I see individually as opposed to one scene. I'm high functioning, so I don't seem too different to the average person, but processing so much sensory information at once can be very tiring. If you want any more information, I'm happy to provide it, but I guess I would need a slightly more specific question.